Hey YouTube, welcome back to Tinker Tools. Tonight we're going to be talking about a budget brand that seems to be making a big push towards a more performant tool. So let's go ahead and get into that on Tinker with Tools. Now I'll be the first to admit that oftentimes the tools that I'm using for the job are probably a little bit overkill for the work that I'm doing, and I could likely get by with a more budget-friendly option. But I'll never fault someone for using the tools that they enjoy using, and so if you enjoy using more expensive tools, that's up to you. But if you do want to save a buck, I do think that it is important to recognize what budget-friendly options are out there. Well, one of the stores that I've never really taken a look at is Walmart. And over the years, I just don't think that their tool options were all that great. But they do seem to be making an effort to kind of legitimize their tool selection a little bit. Seeing a big push recently from the brand Hypertough, and lately they've been releasing new brushless models of their tools, including some of the 12-volt tools that I have in front of me today. So what I want to do is go through what these new tools are, kind of talk about how they differ from the previous brush models, and then we're going to do some testing and even comparing them against a more professional brand to see how they stack up. But first, let's talk about the tools that we actually do have on the table today. Now, I picked up 3 new kits this week, but the first one I'm going to talk about is going to be the 3/8" drill driver. Now, I did actually own the previous brush drill driver that they had in 12-volt. It was a single speed at just 700 RPMs and only had like 120 inch-pounds of torque. But overall, kind of some of the things that really stood out about it was it had a plastic non-ratcheting chuck that just made it feel almost difficult to get it to tighten down on the bit at times. And even though it was only $30, it felt like something you'd use more in a pinch versus a tool you'd buy for actually dedicated use. Now, right out of the gate, this new 2-speed model feels a bit different. Gone is the plasticky, non-ratcheting chuck, replaced by this ratcheting all-metal chuck. And then you also do have 2 speeds on here, with top speed getting all the way up to 1600 RPMs, which is a definite improvement. Additionally, this one now has a claimed output of 370 inch-pounds of torque. But the best part of all of this is right now, the price on this thing is $32.88. And for $32, I can think of a lot worse ways to spend that money than what you're getting, at least on paper. The second tool kit that we did purchase is going to be the impact driver kit. And I should have mentioned this with the drill. Both of these tools came standard with a 1.5 amp hour battery and a charger and then the tool. I don't have a frame of reference for the impact driver because I haven't actually owned the brush model, but that one was down at 2,400 RPMs and only 880 inch-pounds of torque. So now with this one, they're actually claiming 3,000 RPMs, which is a nice step up from that old one, and then also 1,380 inch-pounds of torque. So a pretty substantial gain on the torque figure of that tool as well. Now this kit is a little bit more money right now. It's about $38 when it's on sale, and it's about $49 when it's not on sale. Now, the one kit that I actually purchased that we're not going to be testing today and has actually already started the return on is this. This is going to be what I thought was a brushless tool, but in fact, this is one of their older brush tools. This is what they're calling their 3-in-1 cordless drill, and as you can kind of see on the box, or I'll get you a close-up of it, it actually does have a couple of different chucks or attachments that can go on it. So right off the bat, this caught my eye as kind of an installation drill driver competitor, and definitely at the price I paid for it in the $30 range, if you could get something competent there, it definitely would be a little bit better. But this tool is definitely one of their older tools. Now, I thought initially this was actually some sort of kind of quick release collet or something, almost like it's on the impact driver, but this is actually just a piece of rubber covering the regular kind of little attachment point for the other drill attachments. After I realized my error and not realizing that this was not one of the newer brushless models, I made the decision to send this back. So just be kind of careful when you're buying tools on their website. They do still offer their older brush models and in store as well. And so just make sure if you're buying, you're getting the ones that you want. And I may steer clear of some of the older brush tools based on previous experience. All right, so now let's go on to the testing. Well, I've decided we're going to be doing a handful of tests, and we're going to be testing both on the included kit battery for the drill and impact driver, but then I also picked up one of their $25 4 amp hour batteries because I've heard not the best things about the included battery's performance. And so I want to see if these tools kind of come alive up on the 4 amp hour battery a little bit more. Now, just as a point of comparison, I am going to be running these against the latest generation of Milwaukee fuels. And I get that this is not necessarily a fair fight. The Milwaukees are substantially more money, but I do just want to provide a point of comparison to show how close or far away these tools are getting in their testing. All right, so with the performance testing completed, let's go over some of the good and the bad results that I did notice with these tools. First off, I want to talk about the impact driver. Right out of the gate, it picked up a very surprising win for me, beating the Milwaukee impact driver when it was on that 2 amp hour battery. I don't honestly often run that impact driver on a 2 amp hour. I at least go with that 2.5 high output, but because it wasn't included in the kit, I decided to go with the standard 2 amp hour battery. The HyperTough actually, though, although it did see some improvement when I moved up to that 4 amp hour battery, what you saw in the 1.5 was honestly not that bad. Now, as soon as we put the Milwaukee on the larger capacity battery, you obviously saw that impact driver come alive a little bit. And that's where it's important to remember that this is a $38 kit right now. And that Milwaukee, even on its promotional pricing with that 2 amp hour battery, is still going to be $100. But the impact driver is certainly a case where I was expecting the performance gap to be much greater than what it was. And certainly down on that smaller battery, I did not think that the HyperTough was going to be able to kind of show the performance that it did. Now, I wish I could say that the performance on the drill, so first on the driving test, the 2 amp hour was only able to do the smallest fastener on speed 2. Everything else had to kick down to speed 1. That's where the Milwaukee drill, even down on the smaller battery, still delivered some absolutely incredible performance. And it was only when you moved up to the 4 amp hour battery were you actually able to best that, but not by that much. Moral of the story here is the drill, although it did improve on the 4 amp hour battery, there is a bigger gap between the drill from HyperTough and the drill from Milwaukee. And even down on that standard battery, that Milwaukee definitely showed that gap. Now, it obviously does get better performance on the 4 amp hour battery, but it's not like it was necessarily able to put that much of a gap on the 2 amp hour Milwaukee drill. Now, that's the performance testing, and I think if that was all that you care about, then you can make your conclusion about whether these tools are for you. But I think it's worth pointing out a few other things that I think might help you make a decision on these tools. The most glaring point where these tools show their price point, in my opinion, this little tiny thing that fits in the palm of my hand, is the entire charging solution for it. And so even on the 1.5 amp hour battery, I noticed charging times in excess of 1 to 1.5 hours just to be able to top off how they came from the factory. So the speed at which you're charging on these tools is just not going to be that great. And so I think even though you're getting a single battery included at the kit price, to be able to get any amount of serious work done, you are going to have several batteries already charged up before you start the job, because if they don't last very long, you are not going to be getting back up to speed very fast with this included charger. The other one is going to be on the trigger, and this exists for both of these tools. Now, the trigger has normal travel, I would say, from what you're used to. But until you hit about the halfway point in depressing it, nothing happens until you hit that point. There's just a lot of dead trigger before you get it. If all you ever do is mash the trigger on full, you're probably going to be fine. But if you want to have any touch on that trigger, this is definitely not the tool for you. Now, I think it's fair to point out that with all of those criticisms, you have to remember the context of the pricing that they're in. If you can get by with just the 1.5 amp hour battery and all you need this is for real light duty stuff, you are probably going to be fine, and they're going to be decent quality tools that are definitely improved from where they were before. But if you want true value in the 12 volt lineup, I'm not sure that this is there quite yet in terms of matching value with performance. At least not for the drill. The impact driver is kind of there, but I think if you start looking at a competitor like Skill, for example, that we haven't really talked a lot about tonight, you can get a 2 amp hour battery kit for both the impact driver and the drill with Skill for $50. And the fit and finish of those tools and the performance of those tools is superior to what you're going to be getting from these HyperToughs. They are definitely an improvement and going in the right direction for where they are. And if you think about it, other than Skill, there just aren't a whole lot of budget 12 volt options that are out there that I think are worth recommending. So there you have it, that 12 volt brushless tools that we're checking out right now, the impact driver and the drill. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments down below. Love to get those answered. If you want to see these compared to anything, go ahead and leave those suggestions down below and we'll see what we can make happen. As always, if you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Make sure to turn on notifications so you get notified when I put out new content. And as always, thank you for all the support. And until next time, I will catch you on Tinker with Tools.